First thing is, what is API? First, what is it really about? What is web service? Okay, so the use of API in the market, current industry, why we need right now API. Earlier there was no API testing in the very older, you can say, back release projects, but now API is holding importance in the industry. Okay, so in the coming days API would be the topmost, you can say. So there are different testings. Even we do front end testing, you might be having an idea. No worries if you're not. Front end testing teams like people working on automation, Selenium automation manual. So as compared to their industry, the API testing industry would be leading. So first let's talk about what is an API. First thing, what is an API? As you know, API is nothing but the full form, you can say, application programming interface. It is an interface. It's a programming interface. So what exactly an interface is? Just to understand, interface is nothing but a collection. Interface in turn has many classes. In general, I'm talking about many classes in it. And in each class, you may have multiple methods in it. So what is meant by methods? Methods in the sense functionality, or you can say functions to perform certain tasks. So interface consists of many classes or methods. So when some software is given in the form of interfaces, so this API is kind of an interface. Okay. So to know more about how and from where this API is coming, first we should know initially what is a web service. So we'll come back to this API so interface once we complete this web service. And web service means a website is providing us a service. So these web services are of two types. You find them in market. They are of two types. The first one is SOAPful web service, and second one is RESTful web service. So in our course content, we will be learning about RESTful web services, not SOAPful. But anyways, we'll have an understanding what is SOAP as well. If in case in future, if you get a chance to work with SOAP, if required, you should at least know the brief understanding of it, how the SOAPful web services documents are shared to you, how you can work with it, SOAPful with Postman. We'll be having a brief understanding. So as we said, this is a service on the web. So what is a web? You know, you have web applications, right? So web applications, that's nothing but any application which you can open over web or a network. For example, our GoToMeeting itself is a web application. Google, Gmail, all are web applications. So how this communication is happening? I'm in the session, everyone have connected in the GoToMeeting. We are able to communicate. Okay, the screen is shared, the voice you can hear to and fro. How is this happening? So here the communication is through some protocols. So in a Google, if you search for certain keyword and enter, if I type here Postman, so the Postman keyword is sent to the backend, to the server side via a protocol. So it might be using a HTTP protocol. Okay, protocol means certain standards how the communication would happen from one end to the another end. So here we gave a request in the form of a keyword, a search, okay, and I clicked enter, right? I clicked enter, that's an action given to this application in the form of a request. This process of searching the links based on this search keyword is processed at the backend and you get a response. This is my response below, the different links for the Postman, right? So to understand the API, we should detailedly understand the flow of passing the request via protocol and how that request is processed at the back end and collect all the information from the server side, collect that information, encrypt it, because of security over the network, okay, into a JSON format or XML format, whichever it supports, okay, in a JSON form, and return back to this screen. That JSON format, we won't be able to read it, understand it. So that JSON has to be converted back into our user readable form at the client side. So here the screen is a client. We have passed a request postman and I clicked enter. The request is gone back to the database, right, at the server side, collected all the information relating to our keyword and sent back to the client in the format of JSON to provide it's a secured form transfer, okay, format. And here you can display the response in the form of readable form, which is on the client side, okay. So this is what a request, going the request and getting the response, which is happening on the web application. Now coming to this, any web application.
You mentioned like when we're getting the response, we will get in either in JSON or XML format. Like why it is different? The request we sent it as form of a keyword and we were invoking in web service code. But like when the response, it is coming in different forms, as you mentioned, XML or JSON. Why is it?
The request is also going in the JSON form at the back end. The postman word is also going in the JSON format, hit the server, and response is in the JSON format and converted back to your readable form, string form. Request and response both are in the certain format. So that based on the agreement between the server, okay, and the server side service and the application, the client, in which format it supports, those all things, okay. So right now, before going into detail to those steps, anyways, we'll be discussing all those points. We are just understanding our request, what is a request and what is a response with a general any application, okay. Now here, any web application, when you talk about web application, it depends on a three-tier architecture. You all might be knowing it, three-tier architecture, or you can call this as a multi-tier architecture. What is this? Means for sending the request, means the communication between the client and server, it takes three layers are there involved into it. What are the three layers? You have a client layer, business layer, and database layer. So business layer, also known as a logical layer, or you can say backend, you can say business logic, where a logic, how to process your request, the logic is written over here. It holds in this layer. And database, as you know, it is for storing your required information, whatever the information, the services you need. You're looking for booking, when you're traveling, you're looking for the reservation. So the details about the services are stored at the database. When you're on the e-commerce, when you're searching for some product, the details about the product and the payment, everything, the price, the description, everything is stored at the database along with the transaction performed by you. So it's for storing the transactions, product details, description, so on. That's a database. And the client layer is something where a client is interacting. You mean to say UI, user interface, a screen where you can process your request. So this is how the web application architecture is designed. So when we are interacting, now here I'm in the Google, this is the UI where there is a search area where I can enter a keyword and click, the request is going. So where the request is going, based on some logic, right? So based on some logic which is present in your business layer and in turn interacts with your database layer, and response is coming back via business to the client. Fine. Now let me just one thing. Let me show you this. You can see this is a three-tier architecture of any web application. Where you're interacting through web, you have a user interface, that's a client layer, business logic, and the database layer. Where the database it's a server, right? Where you have a particular database and data is processed. Now, the request is going through every layer, interacting with, hitting the server, collecting the response and reverting back to the client or the UI. This is your first web application architecture. Now here, what happens is, for example, how is this, when I say, for example, you can take the same example of postman. When I entered a keyword postman, means what? I want the details or URLs of matching where I can install or working with Postman tool, right? So the logic, how to get a particular search is written in the form of a methods. Maybe in the JSON form, it goes in a JSON form. So as a request body. So when you're sending a request, you need to pass a URL, right? You'll send a URL. So through Google, your search keyword is going as an URL. Then you have a request body, where you need to say, so right now we don't need to pass any request body. The request body itself will contain this word postman, right? But internally at the business layer, what will be executed? So right now I want a search based on the postman. So internally it calls at the business layer, a method to find the links based on this keyword. So it will have a method. Now say that I have a class name is get URLs. Get URLs is my class name. Instead of get URLs, I'd say search, because it's a common class searching anything. Inside this search class, I'll write a method. So that method to be called publicly. So I say public. This is not any postman code. Just generally I'm explaining you a logic, how a backend in the business layer, the logic would be written. So public void, I say get URLs. This is a method where you'll have a logic how to search for the URLs. Okay, so here I'll write to the code how to get the URL and return the URL. Return this URL. So whenever the request is going, it will search in the business logic, which is that method helpful for us to get the URL for the based on the request, based on the search. The URLs, whatever multiple URLs or single URL from the database is returned and it is processed back to your client. So what you can say, business layer is an intermediate layer. Business layer is an intermediate layer between your client UI and the database layer. Fine. So how is it really interacting with the database? You have a logic, you have written a method to get the URL, but how you're getting the URL? Before returning, it may hit the database, maybe a query. I say select the URLs. Select the URLs from the table. So maybe in the database, in a particular table, you have all the URLs. I say table URL. Table name is table URL. So this query will interact, will take a request from the business logic from this method to the database layer, gets all the URLs from the table based on the keyword and returns back to your business layer. So from here, it goes back to the business layer. Now business layer already have a method, return that collected information back to the calling client. So this is how at the back end internally the communication happens. So because of with this query, select URLs from the table, the business logic or business layer is interpreting the database. Okay, so business layer is interpreting with the database, execute the query on the required table and retrieve the data from that table back to your business layer and in turn forward that to your UI, which in a readable form, so that we can get all these URLs as a readable understanding format. Fine. I think your question is, the question was put forward is clear. Yeah. Now the same interaction, same request and response example, if you take with your Gmail application, where you're trying to find all the mails. So requirement is to check the unread mails. Okay. So here the requirement is to check the unread emails. Now, how you get the unread emails? You try to first click on inbox from your email after logging in, signing in, right? You click on email, inbox. Clicking on inbox itself is a request. Itself is a request where this request is going to your business layer. From that business layer, it is hitting the server. What are the mails for this particular Gmail account holder? It writes a query on the database, get all the mails, select mails from your table, mails table. That retrieved information is coming back to the business layer where we are displaying on the client. Okay, here where we are putting on the client, so that in the GUI, in the user interface, we can find all the emails listed out. So how the mails are coming to the UI? Actually, the communication between the two end points between the two systems are in the form of JSON. Okay, so when I try to put the JSON response, okay, say this is a JSON response, JavaScript object notation, JSON means, we'll discuss in detail what is a JSON, everything. So right now I have a JSON response. I'm looking for all the mails, emails, right? This is a syntax of a JSON. It's an array. You may get 10 emails or 5 emails, 100 emails. Those are nothing but array, means a collection of 5 emails. Each email may have a file attached, a date, name of the email, receiver, sent email address, many things. So you will get in the form of an object. So this is one object, a curly bracket, comma, second email details, comma, third email details. So say that right now we have only 3 emails. Last email don't have any comma, that's the end. Between these curly brackets, the details are there. What details? I just write it here. The first detail is like always the JSON will be in the form of key and value pair. This is the first key. The key is always in a string form. Say that this is mail from where you have received mail. This is one key and an associative value for it. This is a key and a value, colon, and a value is, suppose abc@gmail.com is a sender. This is a value. Not only this is the information in a particular mail. You have many details, comma. The next detail is about the date. Okay, this is a key value. So date is 22nd 5/19/2019. This is the next value. You have any file attached, then you may have a file key, colon, and the name of the file. Maybe you have attached a cv.docs file. So you don't have any more details in your mail. So this is the end of your one object. This is one object. This is one object. In this manner, you may have many emails, right? Now the second one and the third one. So mail from A1 user, whatever the CV1 you got, mail from A user, CV2. These are the different objects. This is called as an object 1, object 2, object 3. Each object having many more details inside it. So this is all collected as an object. So multiple objects you have in your JSON. So this is a JSON array. It's a JSON array. So at last there's no comma. But when I get the details about our Postman search in this manner, we won't understand it clearly. We want a proper UI format. So this JSON format is converted back when it is reaching the client in a readable flow. Right? Is this point clear? Now to check the business flow, when I'm hitting on the check emails button, how the request is going, how is it taking the response, what are the details sent to the server, how much time it is taking, how the network is taking that flow. To understand that, you can also see the under development tool. For that, what you can do is, this is not necessary, but every web server tester should know, API tester should know that. So here, suppose I'm just going to Google. Okay, this is the URL. I want the developer tool. because I want to check the network flows of this website. So just inspect anywhere, right click anywhere on the site, inspect. It opens a developer tool for you where you can see all the network flows, HTML code developed for, used for that UI, everything you can look from here. And here you see different tabs. Select console, source, network. Select the network. Right now you can clear the network from here. The option is available here, clear. If you have some logs of the execution flow, you can clear them. Right now we are here, 0 seconds filtration. Okay, now I'm just clicking here and giving a word, Postman or Java something, and enter. Here if you see down under this networks tab, the logs are generated. How is it processed at the backend? And you can see the flow, the time, everything. Now my first request was in the Google, I have entered Java. So this is the first line, search question mark, this one. I can just click on it. See the status code 200, 200 means 200 is the status code that successfully the request has been processed. Okay, so it's a document type. I just click on this first line. I get the details about that first request, what it is going. In general request, I'm in the header section. You scroll here, general. What is the request URL? Right now, we may not understand much details about this URL. Slowly going in few sessions, you'll get to know. It's a gmail.com search question mark and some encrypted values it is. I have actually passed Java. So that has been encrypted here and passed over network. Question mark, it is something a query parameter. You're passing your keyword, what to search. Okay, then what is it? You're getting some information from the server. So the request method type is a get. Right now, it has successfully executed. The status code is 200. Remotely accessing, remote address accessing is this. Okay, refer origin. Now see the response headers. What will I get as a response? Already response we got here. We got different URLs for Java. Response headers. Header means as you're passing the request headers, you also get response headers, default headers. So these are the cache control, content type. See content type means in which format you're getting the result. It's an text HTML format using a character set, a default character set of our computer, UTF-8. The date, today's date, the time, okay, expires -1, it says. Server, GWS, it says set cookies, IP address. So these are your headers, status code. Request headers, when you were sending the request also you passed some, Google has passed some headers, like what is the type method, what is the path, the authority. Authority summing is something you're taking a username password. That's a one way of how much authority you have on the Google search. These are all other cookies related info. Set. Okay, this is your string query parameter. I've given Java as my keyword. That is what is your string query parameter, what you're really querying for. It's a queue. See Java, we have request for Java. Okay, this is your headers. Preview, click here to get preview. Okay, we are not getting anything because it's a big search you got here, right? The links. Response. This is what the response. Some variables. So this is the development code for this service. See, they have many functions in it. How the developers have written the business logic. Not exactly the same, but based on this, they have implemented. Iterator chain. How is it calling the another service at the back end? These all things you find. And timings, how the request is, see, request and response. Request is sent, waiting for some time period, then content downloading happened. Okay, the times are mentioned here on the duration section. Cookies, these are the different cookies. It got expiry date, path, size. So in this way, you can understand the execution flow of any request from this developer tool under networks. I can clear it back and you can process some other request and see the logs. These are the logs you can see. This is one way of seeing the logs of your request execution. In Postman also we can see the logs. So what is meant by network logs? So when someone asks you, because these are very basic things, even though that might not hold that importance when you're working, but interview point of view, they are very important, because an experienced guy of 5 years in web services or API testing, by that time of 5 years, for that kind of experienced person also, the basic questions are always asked in the interview. So what are network logs? What is a service? What is an API? What is API testing? What is a web service? These basic things are very important. So coming to the network logs, what is a network log? Any action performed on any web application, internally how the logs are generated, okay, will be displayed from the UI level. So I was looking from the UI level, right? So I went here to the site, opened the logs, and how it is reaching to the client from the UI level. I was checking the logs. This is network logs. Okay, fine. Now coming back to our discussion, we were discussing about our web application, right? This is all about web application. Now you also have a desktop applications, right? You know, desktop applications, applications which are installed on a machine, right, on your system. So do we need a network to communicate with desktop applications? Really not, right? If something is installed on my machine, to access it, I don't need any network. Maybe while installation for the first time, I need network because I need those files, supportive files. But after installation, if I want to work on it, I can work directly without any network. But is that possible with your Gmail or web applications? No. To work on web applications, always I need a network. Okay. So internet is always necessary for web applications, but for desktop application, they work with network or without network, doesn't mind. So any applications which are installed on your machine and you can access without network, they are desktop applications. So I guess we are clear on these 2 points, desktop and web applications. Now let's move to understand a common word. As we were discussing about web service, what is first we'll understand, you know, now web. We'll understand what is this service. Service and reusability. This topic is very important to explain the interviewer or to get a clarity in your project how the the services are created and what is that service about and how you can reuse it. So first, reusability is something you're reusing it many times without rewriting it. Huh? That's a straightforward meaning. What is a service? So service is which performs some task for you, which gives you some output based on your request, right? So I can say a service which performs some functionality, some task. A simple way, I want to add 2 numbers. Adding 2 numbers is a function, some functionality, some task is there. So I can call addition is a service. It's one service which I can use and get the result of 2 numbers addition. Okay. For example, simple example will take a calculator, because why I'm taking a very basic example so that the idea would be clear and you can interpret the same meaning to any bigger application. So calculator service. What calculator will contain? What services it will have? What functionalities it will hold? You may add function might be there, right? Function will be there, subtraction, multiplication, division, and many things, modulus, okay, sign, many functions will be there, percentage, many things will be there in a calculator service. Now see, it's a service. Calculation is a service which is giving you many functions inside it. It's inside this service. When I get this calculator service, with this service, I get all these functions for myself, right? So how this calculation service will be created? Take a simple structure. Now see that here I have a class. I'm creating a class calculator. Inside this class, I'm defining this add sub methods. Methods, they are methods. Say it is a method, public method. I say public method name is add. And when you say method, it has its own body, the logic where you write, correct? So here this is a add method. So say that you'll be passing some input to the methods. If you're planning this add method should take numbers, I should give a data type that it should take only integers x and integer y. Okay, this very basic level. So whatever values will be there in these parameters x and y will be taken to your method, and you do an addition and return the value. Say the result I'll store in another variable. Res is a variable where it can hold x plus 1 task. I'll put in a bracket. This is the task, and this res must be returned from this method, so the client will get that addition, right? So return res. So the meaning of this method is going to take two numbers only, and do the addition and return. Similarly, I can have one more functionality. So it is for subtraction, or take two numbers, it doesn't matter, parameters are same, and return it. So right now calculator, you can add n number of methods in this way. Right now our calculator class is having these two methods. Okay, so say that you are the service provider, I'm the service consumer. Okay, and you have written this logic of calculator at your end. You have developed this business logic, you have written these functionalities. Now you can provide any inputs and you will get the output. Suppose I started my own retail business web application. As it is a retail business, I need these functionalities. I actually need this calculator service. So will I develop these services once again? Maybe it may take time, or I may not be that compatible to do this task because I'm not a developer. So as you have already developed this calculator, it's ready to use. What I would prefer as a consumer, I would ask you, can you give me this calculator service to me, to my web application, so that I can use these services, these functionalities. Clear? So I have to ask you, instead of rewriting the code again, the same functionalities in my website for my business logic. So by three ways you can give me, correct? By three ways you can give me. One thing is what? You can give me this class, the whole class to me. To me means what I have to do? When you give this class, I'll add inside my project this class. On whichever project, my web application framework I have, in that framework, I can add this calculator class. Yes, that's working. But there is a problem in this case. What is the problem? When you give me this calculator and I have added to my framework, my project, it's working fine. I'm able to use add and subtraction, but in future I may come across some challenges. What can be the challenges? So if you can give some inputs. Suppose tomorrow I need some other percentage functionality. If you have not developed a functionality, I'll not get it, right? I have to depend on some other provider. Or again, I have to ask you, please develop a code for percentage because I need it. Yeah, that is one challenge. I have to always request you for my new requirements. So adding new functionalities, you have to follow the functionality strictly, the data type as per you have entered. And also tomorrow, if you change this logic, so today you have written this logic, or add two numbers and return, but tomorrow you came up with some new innovative ideas. You can write much better addition code, okay, some good logic. You want to change this logic. In that case, you'll modify some lines in your functionality here. You'll modify some lines in your method. But as those lines or that modified function will not come to me, because you gave me a last copy, last version you can say, of this calculator. Now new version of calculator is advanced one. So I'll not get these updates. That is also one more challenge, right? But if I want this new version of the calculator, again you have to give the class file. I have to again add into my project. Then my project will be updated to this new modifications. So automatic updating of my function, my project functionalities will not sync with your updates done on your class file. That is the challenge. So we would be happy as a consumer. I would be happy if my project is automatically taking all the changes done from your side, right? That is one thing we want to consider and enhance. Next thing, right now you have only one calculator class. If I have such, you have developed such, I mean to say, 1,000 classes. Maybe you have developed such 1,000 different classes, and I want all those 1,000 classes. Will you give me every class separately 1,000 times? That's not a right convenient way for me to take it, correct? What I would expect, give them as a pact or a deploy it as a class dot var file. Share me a var file. This var file is having all the 1,000 classes in it. When I get this var file, indirectly I get all 1,000 classes and the functions in it. Okay, this is another way of getting multiple classes, but still the challenges are as it is. Updates will not happen automatically. Next time when you do modifications, you have to pass the var file, or whatever modified classes are there, at least share those modified classes to us, to me, so that my project will be in sync with the modifications you have implemented. Is the second scenario is clear? I hope. Yeah. So here in this second case, maintenance is easier, because if any modifications are there, I just share that particular class or the complete var file to a consumer, so where I can reuse it, and for you maintenance would be easier. But here also you have the same challenge. Whatever version, say suppose I have a Java 8 version and you have modified to Java 10 with some updates, some jar files. So you can send me only those updated jar files or the complete software to me. Okay. But to avoid these drawbacks, the third approach is here we have a very simple, straightforward, where the changes will be up to date to me. That is nothing but a service. You create one service. The best way to access the functionalities from one application to another service is a service. Now my application is a retail business. Your application, you have all these 1,000 classes. Now we both are two different applications. I want the classes from your application. So best way, we use service mechanism. That is what we are discussing, service. So what we do in the service, you will deploy all these 1,000 classes in a server. Okay. Now you'll have a server. Okay. All these 1,000 classes you try to deploy in your server, at your server side. This is your service now. You're going to give me a service. You created a service. So as I'm a consumer, I need these services for me with updates, latest updates. So I'm a service provider. Sorry, you are a service provider. And here I am a service consumer. Fine. Now how the request, so I asked for the API to access your service. Now I'll just pass a request here. Boss, I want this service, this particular service, which is on your data server. So I send a request. Okay, so I have a request. So I ask for these APIs, whatever is in this service, what this service has, all the 1,000 classes and the functions in it. So I ask for this APIs. Means API means now the class is inside this your server in your service. So I ask for the APIs. Now I have to make an agreement with you that in which way you'll give me these APIs. whether in a JSON format, whether all the services will you give me, or will you give me only limited services. There will be an agreement. Means the level of accessibility. Will you give me all 1,000 classes, only few important classes? And based on the agreement, the deal will happen. Okay, a level of accessibility, you can say. So here, and you'll give me the response. Now, whatever modification you may do in this 1,000 classes, any changes in these methods, it's in your service now, in your database. So always whenever I want add method, whenever we want add method, whatever changes you have done, always I pass the request. And so that I get the every time the modified and latest changes done to that method. This is how the service consumer is always provided with the latest data from the server. Maintenance is easier, reusability is also there. So this is called as a service. So how these services are shared to the user or the customer, consumer? Through web. Okay. So such services access to over network is known as a web service. So this is a web service. I think it's better to. It's a web service. And I hope that you are clear with what is a service, what is a web service. So we can make one definition of web service is nothing but web service is a collection. Is a collection of what? Of functions. As we were talking about, generally a function is a collection of APIs or functions, or I can call in different languages different things you call methods or tasks which are deployed in one server. The same thing we did here. So all your 100 classes containing the respective APIs, functions, methods are deployed in one server, and that server, that service is given an access for the end user based on the agreement you did. This is a web service. How the communication is through web. So it is a web service. Now based on this web service, what is an API? As it's application programming interface. Okay. So here, how two services are communicating with each other. Now, how this user is communicating with this service provider via request and response. This is what? This is your API. So here I am interacting with an API, some interface. If I want this service, I have to pass a request to the other application and get the response. So here I am communicating with other end via API. Like best example, you can say Paytm. Through Paytm, you can do metro recharge, mobile recharge, right? So Paytm is one application. Paytm is one application where it's in turn communicating with another application, metro recharge. Right? Yes. We are now. This is, you can say your client is already on this UI of metro, where it is in turn passing a request of recharging or charging anything details to the metro site, where metro has its own services, metro recharge or other functionalities are there. You can get them via web. So here you have in between the APIs for metro APIs. Metro APIs. Now, who is having to whom this Metro APIs are given? To the Paytm is a client now. So that based on this APIs given to Paytm from Metro, he can access it, his services. Now, with this, at least the overview of where API comes, what is a service, what a service contains, why we call it as a web service is clear to I think the whole team, right? So just
Yes.
now before going to the next part, this is all about introduction section. Okay, here we have the introduction to web application and its architecture. What is APIs? What is web services? Now, how does the API internally work? This is all about this discussion. So we are done with this much part. Now, as you know, you are a consumer. Okay, I'll do one thing. Also, content. I can't take this copy. So as a consumer, you're sending the request. You're using the API to get the underlying service from the service provider, right? So here we are accessing all the add APIs, sub APIs, mul API, everything, the functions. I'm calling now APIs, not functions, okay? So how you give a request now? So when I say request, how exactly you're giving a request so that the provider understands. So always the request, you send it as an URL. So when you observe your Google, this is your URL. You're sending a request in the form of URL. So I'll share it here only. Request URL. Now when you're sending a request, normally, is the font size okay? When you're sending a URL, we say the HTTP, right? Colon, and then say www dot maybe facebook.com. This is how you give your URL. Sometimes you find some URL, some banking site, you see HTTPS. Now what is this part? If you have any idea, HTTP?
It's a protocol.
Exactly, it's a protocol. How you're sending your request. So you see here HTTPS, yes indicates it's a secured, right? Secured protocol, right? So this is a protocol. After that, you pass the actual server where you need to hit it, right? This you can call as a host name. Let me do one thing. This is a protocol. You can say this as a host name. They're very basic, you all might be knowing it, or also you can call as a server name. And maybe let us go back to our calculator instead of Facebook, because we know the methods in it. Calculator.com. So this is your host. Inside this calculator, you have many things. You're going to do some arithmetic operators or sign operators or things. So I take a base path. Let's suppose mathematics is a base path. And in that mathematics, what exactly you need? We want our add method, right? Add, but our add method was taking two inputs. The two inputs I can pass using query parameter question mark. X is taking a value 10, comma, Y is taking a value 20. So mathematics will become your base path and add will become your resource. Add is your resource. And actually what is this? It's a query input to that resource called as a parameters, giving a data as you're giving during, call it as query parameter. You can pass this input in different ways. That's a different part. So this is how your URL will be, request URL will be sent via your protocol, HTTP protocol. Okay. But if you take this URL in the form of Postman, how you send it? What is this? You're getting an add method. Okay. You're getting an add method. You're not creating it. You're getting it. So when you talk about, when you discuss this, I'll copy the same URL. I think this will not come now. So this is our URL. So here, what type of request it is? A method, type of method. It's a get request. You're getting the functionality of the add. But with the add, actually, you're passing the data as well. Before getting, you're passing the data as well. So the get, even though it is a get method, it will take some inputs. So how the inputs you're passing? In the form of body, request body. So the body will be given in a form of JSON format, like square inside the square. Array means you indicate with a square bracket. It's only two inputs, right? X and Y value. So within curly brackets, you pass what are the keys and value. The first key is X. Always JSON format is a key and a value. String format, X is a key and associative value separated by colon and a value is 10. So the value 10 can be in a string or a number format, comma. Second input is Y with a colon, value 20. This is how also internally the data will be accessed. So based on this request, we get the response again back in a JSON format or XML format and converted back into a readable format. Fine. Let me just 1 second. Now coming to the next point, that is introductions to API. Anyways, we have discussed it. Just in short, we will have a look. Introduction to API. It's an application programming interface. It is an interface. Interface means it is acting as a middle layer between your client and your business logic wherever it resides. Because here, if you look into your slide, here comes your API. It's an intermediate layer between your endpoint and your client. Okay. So when two software systems are communicating with each other, because in between there is an API. So this API helps the two systems to communicate. That is, maybe see where is this add method is residing in your database, right? So it is communicating with the database and giving the output, and that output is processed in your function, add function, and giving back to the client. So two systems are there. One is your business logic, as we discussed here, business logic and database. Database is having the data, business logic having the code. You're sending a request, APIs are going back to the database, interpreting the database, the table over the database, picking the result and reaching the client. Fine.